Greetings, Remax Distinctive. This is Dan Bouchard Fernandez. We are going to discuss today setting up your Skyslope Forms profile, and we're going to go ahead and log in. Keep in mind that there is a difference between your Skyslope Forms profile and your Skyslope general profile. So let's go ahead and jump into the application here. We're going to jump in. Keep in mind, we're always going to jump into the Skyslope suite, not the other buttons. You'll find that that doesn't work for us. Go to the suite. Again, we'll log in using our password and username. All right, next thing that we want to take a look at is we're going to go ahead and click on the apps button up at the top here next to your name. And then we're going to scroll to Forms. So we're going to switch to the Forms application within Skyslope. Apologies for my slow computer. Okay. So next thing that we're going to do is let's click on our name and go to the user profile. Let's make sure that our information is correct in the user settings. It's a good idea to go ahead and plug in your license numbers. And it's very important to go ahead and plug in your Bright MLS user ID. So very important to do that because Skyslope Forms will sync up with Skyslope itself and sync up with Bright MLS to enter data across all of those platforms. So make sure that that is indicated here. Again, make sure that we always put our brokerage name here because we want to be in legal compliance and we want to make sure that that appears here. We also want to make sure that the phone number is correct and we put it in here. This particular phone number is the phone number for the DC satellite office of the McLean office. This goes to McLean. And Mavra and Eugene usually answer this phone directly at McLean, but this is where I do most of my business, so I try to use the DC phone number. You will use the phone numbers that you find most appropriate for your location and your office. DC's brokerage license number for Remax Distinctive is here. You'll put the Virginia license number or the Maryland or Pennsylvania, West Virginia, etc., whatever applies there in that section. And then you'll go ahead and put your Bright MLS code for the office that you're in. So that's where my Bright MLS ID has me living at, even though the brokerage is on Elm Street in McLean. So if that looks all okay, then let's go ahead and save that. You'll get the green pop-up if it's saved. Next, if you have a team, enter all of your team members here. So you'll go ahead and add them here. And just simply by adding their email address. So I have gone ahead and added my own myself using my normal business email address. The dbouchard@remaxdistinctive.com is what I use for my brokerage supervision emails, but my Good Vibe Homes is my selling domain and email address. So I've gone ahead and linked that there just for demonstration purposes. My associations. So now here what I've done is I've populated in here a few of the jurisdictions and the areas that I sometimes serve. And you may go ahead and add more from the pull-down menu if you don't see the ones that you're looking for. So for example, here, another one that I don't have on this list is the Virginia Association of Realtors. So I could go ahead and add that. Except for the fact that I'm now a member of GCAR primarily, and GCAR has not connected me to the VAR library, so I can't add it. In this case, what I would do is I'd get in touch with Granny's, and Granny's will fix that for you, and there may or may not be a fee associated with that. So just wanted to go ahead and show you that. If you wanted to remove your libraries, that's easy enough. But this is basically where your libraries live. Preferences. This is where we're going to talk about today regarding DigiSign. You have the opportunity to connect DocuSign with your forms. However, today's discussion, and right now, we're going to go ahead and talk about DigiSign. So I wanted to do that right now. So let's go ahead and save that and move on from here. All right. So now let's go ahead and click onto this. So if I wanted to create a new file and I wanted to go ahead and say that this is a new buyer, and let's say that this is John Doe, and let's say that John's email is just a demonstrational email address that I have that I use for this purpose. If we did have a property that we were going to write right off the bat, then we could go ahead and plug it in here. It would automatically link to the MLS, and we could plug that in here, and it would automatically populate a lot of the fields. But in this case, we are not doing that. So I am going to go ahead and eliminate that, and I'm just going to say that there is no property yet. Because in reality, we should be filling this out and starting this before we actually have a property in mind. Keep in mind that your buyer agency agreements should be filled out prior to your actually getting under contract, prior to your finding that property. You're kind of putting the chicken before the egg if you're doing it the other way around. So, I mean, you're putting the cart before the horse. Next, we have the opportunity to name the file. If there was a property address, we could click it by this. And let's say we had 123 Main Street here. I don't know, let's say Annapolis, Maryland. Automatically, it populates this way if we wanted to do it that way. If we wanted to call it by John Doe's name, we could do that. Or if we wanted to go ahead and call it something else, we could also do that. So you have the options to choose which one you want. Let's go ahead and call it by John Doe's actual name, and let's go ahead from there. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this information here just for the purpose of this demonstration. Create. Okay, now let's get the file going. So the next thing that we're going to notice is that you've got your files, your templates, your libraries up here, so that if you wanted to go in and find out where your libraries are that we just looked at, that we just noticed, that's up here. Templates, once you do create some templates, those would be located there, but right now we don't have any to discuss. And so right now I've got two files open. One is John Doe and the other one is Jane Doe. I'm going to always close out of those annoying advertisements. And if you want to go ahead and get help, there's an online chat feature. There's a telephone number available for you through the help button. There are videos available through that to guide you through any aspect of Skyslope or Skyslope forms. And that will allow you to get training on anything that you want. And the support people are extremely helpful. I am very, very impressed with the level of responsiveness and the level of attention to detail that they give you when you call with support. And they're pretty quick. Their phone number is 800-507-4117. But again, you could find that if you click on the link here and get more support by clicking on the support tab here. All right, next thing that we're going to do is you have the ability to look at this as a grid like it is right now, or you can look at it with some icons. If you wanted to use it with some icons, you could pull a picture of the the property and in the building here, and then click on it this way. I just prefer to look at it as looking at it as a list. Makes it easier for me. And so now we're going to go ahead and select John Doe. And again, these annoying ads, but nonetheless, here we go. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and go to File Details. Let's go ahead and plug this in. If we did have a property in mind, we could plug the MLS here and it would auto-populate a lot of this stuff. If we wanted to automatically put in a contract acceptance date, we could plug that in there. Same thing with the closing date. Generally speaking, you're not going to have this data when you open up your file, so you would leave this blank. The contact is here, and these are the parties that are involved with this particular file. Next, if you had signed documents with John Doe, they would appear in this list right here. If you had other envelopes for packages of documents that you had previously sent John Doe, they would appear here. But today we're going to go ahead and start. So let's go ahead and add forms. All right. And let's say that I know, so if you'll notice here, because of the jurisdictions that I had in the previous screens there, I've got 630 forms that I could sort through if I wanted to, but I could also narrow it down by simply going to one of these categories. I'd like to point out that this is basically the same content that's available in zip forms. All of the libraries that are in zip forms are pretty much the same that are here. The same thing goes with Bright MLS. You've got a Bright MLS library in zip forms, and you have that as well here. The instruction to exclude listing from the MLS distribution. This is the MLS exemption sheet that we've recently been talking a lot about, and so I could easily add that one here if I wanted to. Now I've got one form added to the file. Next, if I wanted to go ahead, go to a different library, let's say that I'm going to do this in Washington, D.C., because that's where I do the bulk of my business. I know that I need to have this form, and this form. And let's say that I want to represent the buyer agency agreement for Maryland and D.C. That's kind of a misnomer. It's actually not Maryland in general. It's actually only Montgomery County and D.C. So this is slightly a misnomer. And for those of you who do business in Montgomery County uses GCAR forms, not Maryland forms. So that's just understand that that's an option. That's something that we need to pay attention to. But I'm going to go ahead and add this, and this is going to represent our 5 forms that we're going to fill in. I can look at these forms and review them to see, okay, there are 5 forms that are located here, and I'm going to recognize that for this buyer agency agreement, I actually don't need this Bright MLS exemption form, so I'm going to eliminate it. So there I've got 4 forms listed right there. This 6 number is the number of forms that we've looked at in relation to this file. So we're going to pay attention to what's in this box, not necessarily what's on this section here. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to select all. And I'm going to then proceed on and click and fill in this form. And we're going to go ahead and fill it. Let me just go ahead and eliminate that. So if I did want to go ahead and, if I wanted to start filling this out, it would populate these fields. If I wanted to go ahead and start filling this part out here, I would go ahead and enter in my data, Remax distinctive, real estate, and buyers and sellers. I'm going to check my boxes, pre-populate all of these other fields, and go on through that. Go on and fill in these pre-populated fields. These are the fields that you take care of before you give the file to your client for their participation. Excuse me. But then we can scroll through all of the documents. You'll see that the information that was populated either in the profile of John Doe or in my own personal profile or in the account, this file profile, will populate in the fields automatically. If it's not populating automatically, you can also go ahead and edit this. So let's say, because I didn't, let's say for this case, this is automatically populating all of the data that appeared in my profile here automatically. So that's why all this data shows here. So just, that's good information for you to have. It automatically populates. You're happy and saving some time. Again, filling out your buyer agency agreement the way that you normally would and assigning all the fields. All right, next we're going to go ahead and prepare the fields for signature. So this file is going to John Doe. John Doe needs to sign, and let's say that I need to sign also. I can also do it to receive a copy of the document once John Doe signs it, or I can have no action. So I just send it to John Doe, he signs it, and I don't get notified. The only way that I would see it is if I actually logged into Forms, Skyslope Forms, and pulled it up in the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say that I need to sign as well. Eventually my computer will catch up to us. Okay. So you'll notice that you've got the person who is who you're assigning for. So in this case, I'm assigning for myself at this moment. I can also switch it to be assigning for John Doe. Let's go ahead and assign this here. So let's say that I wanted to go ahead and fill in and add a box of, let's say that I wanted to place my signature right here. Wherever that is, I've automatically done that. I've got the ability to go ahead and put a box and assign my initials as well. I can change the size of all these boxes. And I can also change who it's assigned to. So I might have started out and put it into myself, but then changed my mind and I said, no, actually, this needs to be signed by John Doe. So we can go ahead and change it back and do all of these things. I can go ahead and put here, if I wanted to go ahead and add the name of the participant, it'll automatically populate my name there so I don't have to physically type it out. Same thing goes with the date. It'll automatically populate the date. I've got the ability to do the same thing for time if you want to. This can be useful for when you've got a contract that is accepted and you want to denote the time of acceptance of the contract. This could be useful for that purpose, and you don't have to physically type that out yourself. Checkboxes. So checkboxes are here. So you've got the ability to add one checkbox. We've got the ability to add another checkbox here and another. And then we've got the ability to go ahead and say and give rules as to how these checkboxes are to behave. So you've got the number of checkboxes appears here, and notice as I add one, it'll change the number up here. So now I've got 4, and so that's what we have. So let's go ahead and say that I want to give an instruction for that my buyer, John Doe, needs to go ahead and select at least one of these items. So that would give him the ability to select this one, but not this one, or not this one. So he could only select one. So that functions a little bit like a radio button in DocuSign, but slightly differently. Select at most. If I wanted to say that he can only select 3 of the buttons, but not 4, I could go ahead and do that as well. And unknown caller. Sorry about that. And then, so those are some options that we could do. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing this because you're going to learn this and play with this on your own and get familiar with it, and that's going to be how you'll get best knowledgeable about functioning with that. The next fields that we have is a text field. We've got the ability to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to add some text here and say whatever. Okay, then additionally, we've got the ability to do a strike. Let's say that I wanted to strike this language right here, and I could also change the color of it so that it's red. I've also got other options of copying that strike mark and adding it again down here. So now I've created, excuse me, I've created another strike mark here. But let's say then I want to delete that one. I've got the ability to take the strike mark and apply that. All right. So those are some of the functional fields. There's not a lot of functionality in DigiSign compared to DocuSign. DocuSign has a lot more features that you can do with these things, but this will cover you, and it'll fill your needs as much as possible for the moment. Let's go ahead and say that we've completed all of our documents and we want to send them to our client, our buyer client. We now have an ability to go ahead and put a subject line up here, add a special message over here, and if we wanted to go ahead and change our words to make them sound more professional, there's AI. Come on. AI can go ahead and make it sound more urgent. Okay. So, dear client, hope this email finds you well. Just sent you so. That expresses some urgency. AI has done this for you. If you wanted to make it sound more friendly, it gives you a friendly version. If you wanted to make it sound more professional, there's a more professional version. Whichever version you decide to use, or if you want to use your own language, you're welcome to use that too. All right, so now I'm going to send this to the participants, and we're going to go there. So the next video will cover receiving that email, and we will then talk about how to receive that and respond to it from the user's perspective. Thanks, and see you in the next lesson.